I woke up to silence, and an empty crib, I woke up to silence. No babbling. No soft baby giggles echoing from the crib in the corner. No sound of my husband humming in the kitchen while making his terrible burnt toast. Just silence. Too complete, too heavy. At first, I thought maybe they'd gone for a walk. Daniel sometimes did that, took little Caleb out for early morning strolls when he couldn't sleep. But he never did it without telling me. Never without a note on the fridge. A half-whispered kiss. A text that said, "We're watching the ducks. Come join when you wake." But there was nothing. I got up slowly, half asleep, still wrapped in the dull warmth of dreams. But when I looked toward the crib, everything inside me went cold, empty. The blanket still neatly tucked, the pacifier on the mattress untouched, as if he was never there. I called out, my voice cracking. "Daniel?" Nothing. I checked the bathroom. Empty. The living room. Empty. No stroller, no diaper bag. Gone. I ran to the kitchen, and there it was. The note, folded in half, propped under my favorite coffee mug. I knew his handwriting instantly. Tight, slanted, too neat for someone so chaotic. My hands trembled as I picked it up. "I'm sorry. This is what's best for him. Please don't try to find us." That was it. No, I love you. No explanation. No warning. Just don't try. I couldn't breathe. I felt like the walls were closing in. Like the floor beneath me cracked open and swallowed every part of me that made sense. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I called again, and again. I screamed. Cried. Collapsed onto the floor, clutching the note like it could bring him back. Or bring Caleb back. My baby. My little boy with the wide eyes and the sleepy laugh. Gone. I called the police. Tried to sound calm. My husband, he took our son. He left me a note. No, there's no custody order. Yes, he's the biological father. No, I don't know where they went. They filed a report, but I could hear it in the officer's voice. This wasn't a kidnapping, not on paper. This was a family matter. This was the father has rights. But what about my rights? What about my mornings? What about the way Caleb looked for me when he cried? What about the lullabies only I knew how to hum? They told me to wait. He might come back. Give it 24 hours. Maybe he just needed space. But I knew Daniel. He didn't take space. He made decisions. Cold, final, cruel. That night I sat alone in Caleb's room. The tiny socks still in their drawer. The bottle I had cleaned the night before still drying on the rack. I pressed my face into his blanket and sobbed until my throat burned. Because my son wasn't on the news, he wasn't in danger, they said. He was with his father, but I knew something was wrong. Because Daniel didn't do anything unless it benefited him. And Caleb? He wasn't a child in Daniel's eyes. He was a pawn, a piece, something to hold on to or take away. I reread the note. This is what's best for him. For him? Or for you, Daniel? Because I was his mother. And now I was no one. The note said, it's what's best. But for who? The police said to wait. 24 hours, maybe more. But they didn't understand. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't two parents disagreeing. This was a man disappearing with my child and calling it love. I held the note again that morning, fingers trembling. It's what's best for him. The words mocked me. Who decides what's best for a child without the mother? Who looks at a crib, still warm from sleep, and decides she doesn't get to see him wake up again? I tried Daniel's phone again. Voicemail. I checked his email. Deactivated. I opened his laptop, locked, password changed. He had covered every trace. I went to our closet, half empty. He had taken his clothes, some of Caleb's favorites, the carrier backpack. Even the photo of the three of us at the beach, the one I had framed on the dresser. Gone. He wasn't planning to come back. I started to question everything. Had there been signs? Moments I missed? Conversations where he hinted at something more? 2 weeks ago, I remembered he was unusually quiet after picking Caleb up from daycare. When I asked, he said, "Just thinking about the future? Don't you ever wonder if we're giving him the best?" At the time, I smiled. We're giving him love. That's the best. He didn't reply. Now I realize he already disagreed. Later that day, I drove to his mother's house. She opened the door in her bathrobe, mascara smudged under her eyes. She looked tired, almost guilty. "He's not here," she said before I even spoke. "Do you know where he went?" She hesitated. "No, but I knew he was planning something. He asked me for Caleb's birth certificate last week. Said he needed it for a passport update." "Passport? He's leaving the country?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I don't know. Maybe." He wouldn't tell me, just said, "If Emery asks, don't say anything. It'll be easier this way." My blood turned cold. "Easier for who?" She didn't answer. Didn't have to, because the truth was already unraveling. Daniel hadn't just left. He had planned this, plotted it, calculated it, packed the lie into every step. At home, I opened the drawer where we kept our documents. His passport, missing. Caleb's, missing. Mine, still there. Intact. Useless. Then I noticed something else, our joint bank account. I pulled it up on my phone, something I hadn't done in a while. And what I saw made my stomach turn. A series of transfers. Small enough not to trigger alerts. Frequent enough to mean something. He had been moving money, months in advance, to a separate account. He was preparing to disappear. I called my lawyer. Yes, I had a lawyer now. Because when a man takes your child and leaves you behind, you either fall apart or you get angry. I was both. You said there's no custody agreement? She asked. No, we never needed one. Well, now you do, and we'll fight for it. But the law didn't move fast enough for a mother with an empty crib, and the silence in my house was turning into an echo. I began retracing everything. Old emails, his calendar, phone bills, anything. And that's when I found her. A name I didn't recognize. Melissa J. Multiple calls. Texts at odd hours. One marked, "See you soon." He didn't just take my child. He wasn't alone. They said I was unfit, but they didn't know the truth. The first time I heard it, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so far from the truth, it felt like a bad joke. The social worker sat across from me. Clipboard. Calm tone. That careful clinical language people use when they're about to say something that will ruin you. There have been concerns raised about your emotional stability, she said. Your husband has reported several incidents where he feared for your child's safety in your care. I blinked. What? He mentioned a breakdown 2 months ago. Yelling, throwing objects, a pattern of unpredictable behavior. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand she look at me. Look at the woman who read bedtime stories every night, who kissed bruised knees, who stayed up with fevers, held him during colic, sang lullabies off-key just to calm him. That never happened. I said, my voice sharp. I've never laid a hand on my son. I've never... Ma'am, please stay calm. Stay calm? While you read lies off a sheet and nod like they might be true? I felt my chest tighten, because I realized... he'd thought this through. He knew the law favored the cautious. That suspicion was enough. That one whisper of instability could delay my case, maybe even destroy it. He didn't need to be right. He just needed to sound concerned. And he was good at sounding concerned. I knew that voice. That measured, kind tone he used at parties, at parent-teacher conferences, when explaining things like a hero. He could charm anyone, even a judge. Meanwhile, I was unraveling, grieving, angry, scared, and now apparently unstable. My lawyer told me to document everything. The note, the call logs, the bank transfers, start a paper trail. If we have to fight, we'll need evidence. So I did. But every day felt like a battle against an invisible version of myself that Daniel had already created. Then came the custody hearing. He didn't show, but his lawyer did. She submitted statements, photos, even a doctored video. Me crying on the kitchen floor the night he left. No context. Just silence. Tears. Shaking hands. She's clearly overwhelmed, the lawyer said. And while we understand she's going through emotional distress, our client believes his son deserves a stable, safe environment. Stable, safe, as if I wasn't both until he ripped them away. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, holding Caleb's stuffed dinosaur. It still smelled like him. Milk, lavender shampoo. I pressed it to my chest and sobbed until the air ran out of my lungs. Because I wasn't just fighting for my son anymore. I was fighting for the right to say, I am not what he says I am. Then I remembered the name, Melissa J. The woman from the phone logs. The one with the hearts and the texts. I searched. Facebook. LinkedIn, old emails. And there she was. Melissa Jordan, family therapist, specializing in parental alienation recovery. And then it hit me. He wasn't running with my son. He was rewriting the story with a professional helping him write the script. He took my son and my voice. The silence wasn't just in my house anymore. It was in the courtrooms, in the phone calls that went unanswered, in the way even my closest friends began choosing their words carefully, as if afraid I might break. But I wasn't broken. I was boiling. After the hearing, they issued a temporary custody order. He got full placement until further evaluation. I wasn't allowed to see Caleb, not even a video call. The court strongly advised against contact during the review period to avoid emotional distress for the child, as if my presence was the problem. I became a ghost in my own motherhood, waking up in the night with phantom cries, packing snacks I couldn't give to anyone, reaching for toys only to remember he wasn't there to play with them. I tried sending letters, soft, simple ones. Mommy misses you. I hope you're smiling. I still hum your favorite song. They were never delivered. Returned unopened. He took my child, and every road back to him. One night, I got a call from a blocked number. A pause. Then a small, quiet voice. Mommy? My breath caught. Caleb? Daddy said you're sick. But I don't think you are. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I'm not sick, baby. I'm just waiting for you every single day. Daddy says I'll see you when I'm older. Is that true? No, sweetheart. You'll see me much sooner than that. The line went dead. He must have taken the phone, blocked the number, erased the call. But he couldn't erase the voice of my child who still remembered me. I went back to the lawyer the next day, slammed down every file, printout, and proof I'd been collecting. We're not waiting anymore. We're fighting. She looked through the papers, paused at Melissa Jordan's name. Wait, you said she's involved? Yes, Daniel's been talking to her. She's a therapist. My lawyer's eyes narrowed. She's also worked as an expert witness. She's testified in custody cases before, so she could be building a case against me, professionally. Exactly. That night, I started digging. Old court records, online articles, anything with her name. And I found it. A custody case from 2 years ago. A mother lost full rights. Melissa testified. Her statement, nearly identical to what Daniel's lawyer had said about me. Same wording, same phrases. It was a playbook. He was following a script, a method. I printed everything, highlighted each matching phrase, sent it to my lawyer with a subject line. He's not protecting our son, he's manipulating the system. Days later, I got a call from the court. A new hearing was scheduled. This time I was allowed to speak. And I would. Not with rage, but with truth. And truth is louder than any lie once you're finally given the floor. I found the hidden bank transfers, and the lies began to unravel. It started with a receipt. A crumpled little square, tucked between old documents I'd missed before. One of the few physical traces Daniel hadn't wiped away. I almost tossed it. But the name on the top made me pause. Amber Heights Behavioral Wellness Center, a private facility, specializing in parental reprogramming therapy. I Googled it. Their tagline read, helping children heal from emotional trauma caused by toxic parenting. My blood ran cold. What was Daniel doing there? And why was our son's name listed on the payment memo? I dug deeper. My lawyer had already subpoenaed limited access to our joint financial records, enough to start asking questions. But now I asked for more. We found it. A hidden account, created months before he left, set up under a trust, funded in small, carefully timed transfers. $800 here, sent out $200 there, over $20,000 total. Labeled innocently, education fund, child development, relocation buffer. But the payments? They didn't go to schools or therapy for Caleb. They went to a private attorney with no family law specialty, a real estate agency in another state, and Melissa Jordan's consulting firm. He wasn't just building a case, he was building a new life without me. And the worst part? It looked legitimate. From the outside, it would seem like he was doing everything for the good of the child. But every move was calculated to erase me. We traced another expense, a payment to a private investigator. Weeks before he left, he had someone follow me, photograph me, track my movements, all for a future narrative he hadn't even spoken aloud yet, but had already written. My stomach turned, not just at the betrayal, but at how far back it started. This wasn't a man who panicked. This was a man who planned. Smiled at me over breakfast while transferring money out of our account. Kissed me goodnight while drafting custody strategies. Let me rock our son to sleep, while knowing soon I wouldn't be allowed to touch him again. But if he was so sure of his lies, why hide? Why run? Because somewhere, deep down, Daniel knew the truth couldn't stay buried forever, and I had just found the shovel. I gave everything to my lawyer. Files, printouts, traced receipts. She read in silence, flipping page by page. When she looked up, her eyes were sharper than I'd ever seen. This changes everything. Can we fight him with it? We can do more than fight. We can prove intent, we can prove deception, we can prove this was never about Caleb's well-being, but about control. I nodded. Then let's make him answer for it. Because he took my son. He took my voice, he tried to take my truth. But now, I was coming back with all three. She said, you deserve to know what he did. It started with a voicemail. A number I didn't recognize, a voice I didn't know. Hi, I don't know how to say this, but I think I can help you. My name is Lily. I was with Daniel before you were. I saw your story in a parenting group. I wasn't sure it was him until I saw the photo. A pause, then. You deserve to know what he did to me. Because I think he's doing it again. Just worse this time. Click. My fingers froze. I played it again and again. Each time her voice trembled less, and mine began to shake more. I called her back. She answered on the second ring. Lily's voice was softer than I expected, worn down at the edges, like someone who had once fought a battle and barely made it out. We agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown. Neutral, quiet. She arrived early, and the first thing she said to me was, "You look exactly how I did, right before he took everything." She told me her story, piece by piece, and every word made my stomach twist. Daniel met her 6 years before me. Charming, devoted, said all the right things. She got pregnant after a year, and he proposed immediately. But then he changed. Subtle at first, gaslighting, isolation, twisting her words, making her question her memory. He never yelled, Lily said. He just erased parts of me quietly. He convinced her to quit her job, then said she wasn't engaged enough with their son, that she seemed detached, that she needed time away to get herself together. And one day, just like with me, he took their child, left a note, filed a custody case before she even had a lawyer. He told the court I had postpartum depression, Lily whispered. I didn't. I was tired, alone, and terrified. He won. Temporary custody. Supervised visitation, then none at all. She hasn't seen her son in 4 years. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, tears threatening to spill, because I saw your post in a group I follow for custody trauma survivors. And when I saw the name, the pattern, I knew it was him. Why didn't you stop him then? She looked down. Because I couldn't even save myself. But maybe I can help you save you. She handed me a flash drive. Emails, legal documents, psychological assessments he faked. I kept everything, just in case. And now it's yours. I held it like it was made of glass. Because in a way it was. It held the cracks in Daniel's perfect image. Cracks that could shatter his entire lie. That night, I plugged the drive into my laptop. And as the files opened, everything fell into place. He had done it before. Same language, same tactics, same Melissa Jordan. The therapist who supported his side in Lily's case was the same one in mine. The system hadn't failed just me. It had failed her. And now it was about to answer for both. I sent the files to my lawyer. She replied immediately. We have enough. This changes everything. I looked out the window that night. The city was loud, alive. And for the first time in weeks, so was I. Because now I wasn't just fighting for my son. I was fighting for every woman Daniel ever tried to silence. And I wasn't afraid of his lies anymore. Because I had the one thing stronger than fear. Proof. I traveled across states and faced his new life. It took 12 hours to get there. 3 trains, 2 buses, 1 hotel booking under a name that wasn't mine, just to be safe. Because this wasn't just a visit. This was a confrontation. I had the address from the bank statements. The real estate agency had sent Daniel's mail to a new location, one he didn't think I'd ever find. But I did. Because I had Lily's story. Because I had receipts. Data. Dates. Because I had fire. The neighborhood was clean. Too perfect. White fences. Swing sets. Wind chimes that jingled like nothing bad ever happened behind those walls. I stood across the street, staring at the house where my son was being raised without me. I didn't go to the door right away. I sat on a bench at the park nearby, waited, and then I saw him. Caleb, running down the sidewalk with a small red ball, his cheeks pink from the cold. That crooked smile I knew better than my own. And behind him, Daniel, carrying groceries, laughing. And next to him, a woman, Melissa Jordan. My stomach turned, not just from the betrayal, but because now it wasn't professional anymore. She wasn't just the therapist. She was part of his life. I snapped a photo. My lawyer told me to document everything. Don't act yet. Observe, record. We'll bring it to court. This isn't revenge, it's truth. But when I saw Melissa bend down and kiss Caleb's forehead, I broke. I crossed the street. My steps quick, trembling. Daniel, he froze, turned slowly. His eyes widened, not with surprise, with fear. Because he knew. The past had caught up. And this time it had evidence. What are you doing here? He asked. Is that a real question? Melissa stepped between us. This isn't the place. Neither was the courtroom when you lied about me. I snapped. Caleb stared at me, eyes wide, confused. Mommy? My heart cracked. I knelt down. Hi, baby. He walked toward me, slow, unsure. Daddy said you were too sick to see me. Tears burned behind my eyes. I forced a smile. I'm not sick, sweetheart. I've always wanted to see you. Every single day. Daniel reached for him. Caleb, come here. But Caleb didn't move. He stayed by me. And in that moment, Daniel lost control. You shouldn't be here, Emery. You're violating the order. There is no active order, I said calmly. And I know about the bank accounts, the real estate transfers, the lies to the court, and your relationship with your therapist. Melissa paled. Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to tell you, this ends now. You don't get to take him from me. You don't get to write both sides of the story. I have every right, Ed. No, Daniel, not anymore. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. If you make this ugly, Caleb will suffer. I stared into his eyes, and for the first time, I didn't flinch. You already made it ugly, but I'm here to make it right. I stood up, held Caleb's hand. I'll see you soon, baby, I promise. He nodded slowly. Can I come home? I smiled through tears. Soon. I turned, walked away, not because I gave up, but because I had everything I needed. And this time, I'd win the right way. He told our son I was dead. I couldn't sleep that night. Not after seeing Caleb, not after hearing him ask, "Can I come home?" Those 5 words kept echoing in my head like a prayer, like a wound. The next morning, my lawyer called. Are you sitting down? Yes. What is it? We got access to the audio logs from the Guardian evaluator. They interviewed Caleb last week. You need to hear what he said. I played the file with trembling hands. At first, it was just the soft shuffle of movement. The child psychologist's voice, gentle and slow. And who do you live with now, Caleb? Daddy and Miss Melissa. Do you miss anyone else? A pause. Then a whisper so small I almost didn't hear it. Mommy used to sing to me. What happened to Mommy? And then everything shattered. She died. Daddy said she went to heaven because she was too sad. The room spun. My breath caught in my chest. I hit pause. He told him I was dead. Not sick, not away, dead. And not just dead. Too sad to stay. He turned my pain into a weapon. My vulnerability into an excuse. My absence into a death he authored. And made Caleb believe it was her fault. I couldn't stop shaking. Not just because of what he said, but because of what it meant. My son grieved me, all while I was still alive, crying myself to sleep missing him. I called Lily, told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. He did it to me too, she finally said. Told our son I was in the hospital forever, then said I forgot him. By the time I got visitation, he wouldn't even look at me. How do you come back from that? I whispered. You show up again and again until they remember who really loved them, who never left. I met with my lawyer the next day. She filed an emergency motion, with the recording, with the photos, with the financial proof, and with Lily's signed affidavit. The court granted a new hearing. This time, in person. This time with Daniel present. This time with Caleb protected by a third-party evaluator. But until the hearing, I wasn't allowed to see him. Not directly. I sat outside the park he always visited, watched from a distance as he played, and every time I saw him smile, I imagined what he thought. That his mother died, that she chose sadness over him, that she was gone, forever. One evening, Melissa came out of the house to pick him up. I stayed in my car. She spotted me. Our eyes met. She looked unsure, almost guilty. Then she walked to my window. Don't speak, I warned. Just listen. I didn't know what Daniel told him, she said quickly. Not until recently. I thought you were out of the picture. You helped him erase me. I didn't. You testified in a case where you were romantically involved with the father. That's a violation of ethics. It's over, Melissa. She went pale. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. But the judge will too. And then you'll have to explain how you played therapist while sleeping next to the man manipulating a 5-year-old boy. She backed away, shaken. I didn't win that day. But for the first time, they started to lose. I fought for my son, and for the truth to be seen, the courthouse was colder than I remembered. Not the temperature, but the way people looked at me. Some with sympathy, some with skepticism, but all waiting for either a mother's collapse or a mother's roar. I chose the second. My lawyer sat beside me, stack of files labeled and ready. Across the room, Daniel whispered to Melissa. She was paler than before. Her hands fidgeted in her lap. She hadn't submitted any new testimony, because now she was being investigated. The judge entered. We rose. This was it. The hearing to reconsider custody, to examine the conduct of the father, to determine if I could be trusted again, or if I had ever been unfit at all. The court began with evidence review. My lawyer stood. Your Honor, we present a pattern of financial manipulation, testimonies from another mother previously deceived by the same individual, audio files of the child being told his mother is deceased, and proof that the key witness, Melissa Jordan, engaged in a romantic relationship with the father while serving as a professional advisor to the case. The judge raised an eyebrow. Continue. We are not just looking at a custody violation, Your Honor. We are looking at intentional parental alienation, emotional manipulation of a child, and systemic abuse hidden beneath a polished image. Daniel's lawyer tried to object, tried to shift the narrative back. My client was concerned for the child's well-being. By telling him his mother was dead, my lawyer cut in. Silence. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Cole, is that true? Daniel hesitated. Then, weakly, he was confused. I didn't want to make things harder for him. I stood up, asked for permission to speak. The judge nodded. I looked directly at Daniel. You didn't make it easier. You made him grieve someone who is still alive. You stole years of bonding. You told a child I died. Just to keep control. My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. And yet, every night, I still set a place in my heart for him. I still wait for him to remember my voice. Because no matter what you said about me, I never stopped being his mother. The courtroom was silent. No papers shuffled, no coughs, no movement. Just the weight of truth finally being heard. Then the guardian evaluator spoke. I've interviewed Caleb, and despite the narrative he was given, he still speaks of his mother with clarity. Her singing, her hugs, her warmth. She paused. A bond like that doesn't disappear, it waits. The judge nodded slowly. I've seen enough. Daniel stood up abruptly. This is all twisted. She was unstable, she yelled, she cried, she couldn't cope. And you? I asked softly. What were you doing while I was coping alone? What did you do except plan how to erase me? Melissa looked away. And in that moment, Daniel was finally alone. The judge looked at me. Mrs. Cole, are you ready to resume your role as Caleb's primary caregiver? Tears slipped down my cheeks. I never stopped being ready. Custody is hereby returned to the mother. Immediate transfer to occur under supervision. The father is ordered to attend counseling and supervised visitation only. Further investigation into the ethical misconduct of Ms. Jordan is also ordered. It was done. The fight wasn't over, but the truth had finally stood tall. Outside, the sun hit me for the first time in weeks. Warm, honest, real. And in the parking lot, a familiar figure ran toward me. Tiny feet, open arms. Mommy! I dropped to my knees, held him tight. This time I wasn't letting go. He tried to erase me, but I came back stronger than ever. It was the first night Caleb slept in his own bed. In his own room. In the home I built back, brick by brick, hope by hope. He was nervous at first, clutched his stuffed dinosaur like a lifeline. Will you still be here in the morning, Mommy? I knelt beside him, ran my fingers through his hair. I will always be here when you wake up. Always. He smiled. Sleepy, soft, safe. And when I closed his door, I didn't cry this time, because now I was no longer crying over what was lost. I was holding on to what was finally found. The next weeks were quiet. No courtrooms, no lawyers, no whispers of instability or concerned fathers. Just us, puzzles on rainy days, burnt pancakes, rebuilding bedtime routines. It wasn't perfect. He still asked questions. Why did Daddy say you were gone? Why didn't you come sooner? Was it my fault? Each question, like a pin pressed into my soul. But I never looked away. I never lied. It wasn't your fault. I never stopped trying to come back to you, and I never will again. Sometimes he looked at me like he was still trying to remember who I was. And I let him take his time, because love, when real, waits without rushing. Melissa never showed up again. She resigned from her practice. Last I heard, she moved out of state. Daniel sent a few emails. Legal formalities, court-ordered counseling updates. He never apologized, never admitted what he did. But I didn't need his apology to heal. I needed to stop waiting for it. One day, I opened a new journal. The old one, filled with fear, rage, grief, sat tucked away in a drawer. This one started fresh. On page 1, me, Sam, Mom, I wrote, he tried to erase me, but I came back stronger than ever. And I wrote myself back into the story. Months passed. Caleb laughed more, cried less, ran faster. One afternoon after school, he hugged me tightly and said, I remember your song now. The one you used to sing when I had bad dreams. I smiled. Want me to sing it again? He nodded. And so I did, right there, on our porch, with the wind brushing past us, and the world finally feeling still. He leaned into me and whispered, You came back for me. I held him closer. I never left, sweetheart. They just tried to hide me. But love like mine doesn't disappear. It finds its way home. And it did. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.